how do you approach coaching and training individuals and teams to adapt to changes in their work and personal lives as well?
When we actually get a chance to apply it, we get to learn and grow together. And so I start with that. We start with a goal or we start with a project.
How do you balance the need for stability and fitability with the need for adaptability and flexibility?
Think of it the way I've come to peace with that amount of change and flexibility and change and all of the need to adapt is that there are some things that never change. Welcome. My name is Luz Flores Lee. Luz means light in Spanish. It sounds like your shoe is loose. And I'm so delighted to be here with you, Priya, and all of the listeners to talk a little bit about how to manage and navigate change in your lives. I'm a change leadership coach with my company called Loving All of You. And it sprouted from the idea of allowing for all of us to be in this world, right? We're not all sunshine and rainbows. We're not all happy. There's a sad, there's an angry, there's all the different feelings. And if we shut down any of them, we shut down all of them. And so my goal is in this work is to allow folks to really thrive in being themselves, being fully authentic and navigating whatever life brings to them to be fully present and successful in all that they do. So I'm super delighted to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, your name yourself holds a very, very significant meaning. And I think you just born to give light to the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
So can you tell us more about the common challenges that managers, leaders, or team face when dealing with the change?
Yes, change is hard. You know, folks like to think that our changes are easy. Even if it's a change I initiate for myself, it's hard. Sometimes I want to go back to the way things were, or I miss what happened. Sometimes even when it's a great change. And so the toughest challenge is our emotions. And we try to think our way through the change instead of allowing ourselves to feel through the change. We try to pretend they don't exist and we rush into action or we get into overthinking. And that's really not helpful. It really is helpful to stop and feel what you're feeling, get through those. You know, there is actually a process that most people go through. It's akin to the grief process you may have heard about, but it's called the Kubler-Ross change curve. And we go through these phases. When some change happens, even if it's something we're initiating, there's shock, there's denial, frustration. Sometimes folks like to call it anger, depression. There's an experimental phase, and then there's a decision, and finally integration. We go through all of those phases, no matter what the change. I like to use the example of my local supermarket. I can go to that supermarket, and sometimes they change the location of things that I want to buy. And I go through all those feelings. It comes quicker for a minor change, like the supermarket, but it can happen longer term for major changes in our lives. And so allowing ourselves to feel those and realizing it's only part of the process. I'm sad, and that's okay to be sad. It doesn't mean that I'm failing. It just means that I'm human, and I have to give myself space to be.
Yes. Got it. So, how do you approach coaching and training individuals and teams to adapt to changes in their work and personal lives as well?
Absolutely. So I love working with teams. I love working with individuals on navigating changes, but we start with a goal. If it's a personal goal of what you'd like to achieve or a project that you need to initiate with a group of people or even a small subset of the team, we want to start with the goal, because working on this and looking at charts and graphs and things as an academic exercise helps no one. We want to be able to use the tools and apply it to real action, real things that matter. Because if we don't, then it's easy to push it aside. It's just easy to ignore it. When we actually get a chance to apply it, we get to learn and grow together. And so I start with that. We start with a goal, or we start with a project or multiple projects. And then from there, I definitely will start with an assessment. Where are we today? No one is great at everything, and no one's horrible at everything.
Yes.
We want to understand, what are you good at? What are your strengths? How can we build and leverage on those strengths? And then what are some areas of opportunity that we can focus on? And then I tailor my training, and whether I recommend books or we do a training class or some other way of learning, and then coaching to make sure that we are working toward those individual application of those goals. And then we train that and do that on a regular basis. I also do pulse checks to check in because we don't know the plan the whole time. I have an idea of where we can go, but we have to make adjustments as we go to make sure that we're still meeting our objectives.
Got it. So I can see your passion when you're answering the questions, and I can feel that energy. So is there any particular reason for going into this field?
It's funny because I'm an engineer by training. I studied engineering, a mechanical engineer, and then I did my master's in engineering management and statistics. So I love data and I love numbers. I teach at Syracuse and other universities. I teach statistics and business analytics. So there's a part of me that loves all the numbers and the thinking. And in my whole career, I've worked in process improvement and change management. And the numbers and the data weren't enough. People aren't moved to make changes just because the numbers tell you to. And so that's when I decided to learn coaching and leadership to complement the skills. Because if we put those two together, that's really powerful. Because now I know why I'm doing it. And I also have an emotional charge and energy to actually get it done. So putting those two together has been a really successful piece for me personally. Like I did it at first just for me to get the work done. And then the more I learned that other people had these challenges too, I became more of a coach and a trainer in that field.
Got it. So how do you balance the need for stability and flexibility with the need for adaptability and flexibility?
Ooh, isn't that the $1 million question, right? If we could only like get into that one. It's a tough one. And I think we all have to figure out how we balance those two. You know, we definitely want stability and predictability, but then we can get bored. And also the world is constantly changing. So if we are not adapting, we're going backwards. And so the way I like to think of it, the way I've come to peace with that amount of change and flexibility and change and all of the need to adapt is that there are some things that never change. And I hold true to those. Align to those that don't change. Align to the values that you have. Align to those things that are most important to you. Your relationships with certain people, your connection with the world, the way that you want to treat yourself and others, right? So that doesn't change. That's what stays stable and predictable.
Yes.
I have two children. They're almost adults, 19 and 22. They are major priority for me. So anything that adapts and changes there, I have to adapt to because my relationship to them matters more to me than having a stable and predictable life. You can't have both. I have to be willing to adapt because that's what I've signed up for. It's what I adore. It's what I love. And so I find a way to adapt to them because that they matter to me, right? And so you think about what's stable and predictable and things that really don't change: love, care, attention, respect. The rest can adjust. The rest can adjust as long as you stay true to who you really are, what matters most to you.
Yes, true. That's an amazing answer because in the end, it's only about you, and you need to keep the relationship a positive relation with you, and then only you can give love or respect to others. Yes.
Yes.
So, how do you measure progress and success when dealing with change or creating sustainable improvements?
Yes. So there are two different ways to look at it, right? There's the quantitative, the numbers. I can look at, key performance indicators. I can look at measures. I can look at some specific targets that I'm trying to achieve and see, am I making progress, right? So there's a quantitative way that we can do that. And then qualitatively, more around the softer side, the things that you can't necessarily measure are, how do we feel? What's our morale? Is the team working well together? Are people happy to come in today? Do they feel confident that they can meet those challenges, whether it's an individual or a team? And are they making sufficient progress within themselves? There's some things I can't look at you and see that you've made a change, but you've made a change. You're seeing the world differently. You're handling yourself differently, right? And so we check in on both sides. Are the numbers improving? Are those things that we can tangibly see measured and measure working, or are the qualitative things that are intangible, are those shifting as well? And when we get that combination, we can see if we're really making progress.
Yes. So, can you share any stories, example of individuals or teams who have successfully navigated significant changes in their work or personal life with your guidance or coaching?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is one of my favorite stories because I have a client who was recently promoted. They are an absolutely fabulous and so super smart technician. They're a software programmer, and they were recently promoted to the CIO of the company, the chief information officer in a tech startup. And they're so used to doing the work and had to transition from someone who's great at doing the work to someone who had to lead the work. And that's a hard transition because you know how it should be done. You know how you would do it. You know how quickly you would get it done. But now they don't have the bandwidth to be able to do the work and lead the work. That's a huge transition. You have to let go of so much to be able to really get that work done and not burden yourself. His initial answer was, I'll just do it all. There are not enough hours in a day for you to lead an entire team and do the work of the team. You have to change how you approach things. You have to change how you are showing up in that environment. So we were able to learn, he was able to learn how to delegate some work, which is hard. It's very hard to do because no one's ever going to do it the way you would. They're just not. And identify when it makes sense to delegate, when does it make sense to coach, when does it make sense to do it themselves while giving other things away, right? Really balancing that. And then also, which leadership style is he going to adopt? There are so many different leadership styles, and they all have different ways of being successful in different environments. Who is he going to be as a leader? And how will he hold himself? And how will he relate to others? How will he ask for support from his leadership team and his peers in order to make things happen? Now, he's definitely seen some improvements. There's still room to grow. This is not an overnight thing, but it is something where he's excited to show up now. He's excited when he comes to our sessions and talks about the progress he's making instead of coming in exhausted and overburdened. And that's the kind of shift you want to see.
Wow, that's amazing. And believe me, Luz, when you're answering the questions, when you're telling your insights or your expertise, believe me, I can feel that motivation inside me. The way you
That's
are
awesome.
smiling and answering the question so gracefully and beautifully, and the way you are sharing the stories, and while giving advice to others, how flexibility, adaptability, self focus is, how it is important. Believe me, sudden wave of motivation is also coming in me, and I'm just thinking how to expand this show, how to expand this podcast more.
My pleasure. I love it. I mean, you could tell I love that's a big piece. And that's why, even with the business name, most businesses aren't named love, right? They don't put love in their work and they don't put love in their answers. But I think we need that. Like, why not love what you do? Why not enjoy your day? We spend so much time working. We spend so much time trying to improve things. Why do we need to make it hard? We
Yes.
get one chance at this version of our lives, right? So why not do the best we can to enjoy it and make the most of it?
Yes. So, what role does love, compassion, and fun play in the process of creating sustainable improvements?
Yeah. So attitude, I think attitude is everything, having that open mind. And, love doesn't always mean everything is great. I can love the awful parts of myself. I can love through the transitions and the things that are really frustrating. But if I keep that, again, back to that, the things that don't change, right? If I know that what my values are, love, compassion, fun, I get to put that everywhere. I get to put that everywhere and we get to enjoy. And sometimes we can't laugh because the situation's awful, but sometimes we can because it's not that bad. Like, we have jobs, we have things we can do, we have friends, we have this life. Like, there's so much to be grateful for. And if we're only looking at the negative things, if we're only looking at the things that are terrible, then we're not going to be able to really live. And so, yeah, and when we're creating changes or implementing any sustainable improvement, the process matters. It matters that we've been engaged with the people who are going to make the change. It matters that they were listened to. It matters that we did it together. Because when I don't know how you are, but I know if someone tells me what to do, even if it's the right thing, I don't want to do it. But if they ask me and I came up with the same answer, my attitude about it changes. And I'm more willing to try it instead of you telling me. So
Yes.
let's work together, right? Let's work together in creating that change. And then I have ownership around keeping it going because it was part of my choice as well.
True. So, what advice do you have for individuals who hesitate to change, but at the same time, they know the importance and the need of change in their lives or work?
Yeah. So, first of all, I would congratulate them for identifying it's a challenge. Sometimes we don't even look at the things that we're having trouble with. We think something's wrong with us, or no, that's not right. We ignore it. Acknowledgement is the first step for any change. Being aware that it exists is huge. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. And so, that I would first congratulate folks with. And then from there, I would say learn. There are tools out there. There are the stages of change. There are books out there. There are videos. Use the resources that are out there and pull in support. And really, like I mentioned in our first question, sometimes we think we're bad at change, but we're just human about change. I'm not bad about change. I told you, I have a hissy fit when my supermarket changes the locations of things, and I teach change. But I don't beat myself up about my feelings. I allow them. I know this is part of the process. And so now I can be kinder to myself.
Yes.
And that's the way that I can be more open to changes, is because I know I have a process. I need certain things. I'm aware, and I don't fight myself. I allow. And from there, you can really move forward. So again, acknowledging it, knowing that this is an issue, absolutely fabulous. And now learning to be kinder. Like, we are not machines and robots who, again, our logic will say, why are you so upset? This is great. Yes, it is. And it's not. And I can feel both. So I think takeaways: feel your feelings, learn about the process, get supported, and really focus on that goal.
Yes, I think when you realize I want to change, it means you are growing. You are coming out
Yes.
of your comfort level. It means you are making, might be 0.1% progress, but at least
Yes.
you are making.
Yes. Yes. I don't know if you've read James Clear and Atomic Habits. In Atomic Habits, he talks about making those micro improvements, 1% a week, 1% a day, 1% a month. It adds up. And so we don't have to make huge improvements all at once. If you make little improvements over time, you will be amazed at the results you get.
Yeah, even I have tried that thing in my life. Every morning when I woke up, I used to make my bed first, and I count that, making my bed as an achievement. Like, okay, I have achieved
Yes.
something today. So I have learned that thing from the book. I think it's book are the great source if we read it properly and understand the concepts.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
So,
Yeah.
Luz, that's all from my side. Do you want to include anything from your side?
No, I just want to thank you again and thank all the listeners. I love your motivation for this podcast. I think it makes a difference in the world, and I'm so delighted to be able to partner with you in this conversation today. And I just wish everyone the best success and much love.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your precious time.
Yes, my pleasure.